Welcome to another edition of Dead Air Live. Tonight we have a very exciting guest, Mark Morano, and the name of the show is Time to Feel Better. Mark has been practicing for 24 years, and he integrates some of the most wonderful therapies to get the best results. Welcome, Mark. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So, it's great to have you, because I know that our audience is going to be just thrilled with all the information that you have. Our first topic is going to be about weight loss, gain, and you have a great newsletter called Time to Feel Better, and you give your good advice. So one of the things you mention is about sugars, blood sugar, and how that affects your weight gain or loss, and I want you to elaborate on that.
Sure, there are a number of things that affect our blood sugar, and particularly the way blood sugar relates to insulin. So when we eat a lot of carbohydrates, particularly refined carbohydrates with sugar in them, your pastries and all the foods that people love to eat, that raises your blood sugar, and there's literally more sugar in your blood. Now insulin, that hormone, takes that sugar and helps open up the cells so it can come out of the blood and go into the cells. Blood sugar is what keeps us alive.
So we need blood sugar.
We need it. The brain literally exists on glucose, which is pure sugar. But if you can't get the sugar out of the blood and into the cells, the body's starving. And that's one of the problems with diabetes.
Well, how do we get the sugar into the cells and out of the blood?
That's what the hormone insulin does for that.
Okay.
The problem is people have too much sugar too often. A lot of that signaling to the muscles and to the cells, it becomes resistant. It doesn't hear the message anymore. Insulin's knocking on the door.
Oh.
But after a while, it's not hearing the message. And that's what type 2 diabetes is all about. The message, it's like deaf to the message.
So how does someone beat the cycle? How do they get out of the cycle so that their blood sugar is where it's supposed to be? And how does someone know this? How does a regular person know what's right for them?
Well, the more you can stay away from simple carbohydrates.
And a simple carbohydrate is like just regular raw sugar, flour?
Well, one of the biggest sources now is in food is what's called it's fructose.
Oh, right.
High fructose corn syrup. And it's very damaging to the body in a lot of different ways. So the more you can just stay away from things that say corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup.
So you're telling people read your labels.
You'd be surprised. If you look at ice creams, a lot of the ice creams, including the premium ones, will have the fructose corn syrup. And that's because it's cheaper than white sugar.
Really?
And I'm not advocating white sugar as a good thing, but if you have to choose one or the other, it's far more damaging to have the high fructose corn syrup versus just plain white sugar.
Not to go off the beaten track, but does this have anything to do with genetically modified foods? Which
yes,
means
you're correct. It has nothing to do with genetically modified foods.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay. So if a person looks at the labels and they keep away from anything that has fructose or some of the other words that end with OSE, you have a whole list of them?
Well, sucrose is your table sugar.
Okay.
Fructose is what we think of as from fruit sugar.
Okay.
But there's a bunch of sugars, but the body handles them differently. Sucrose has both fructose in it and glucose. To deal with breaking down those sugars, you have to have your liver deal with the fructose. So you want to really keep down your intake of fructose.
And how much intake should someone have of any type of sugar in their diet? Is there like a limit?
Well, if you cut out the high fructose corn syrup, which is in so many things, and often it's sort of hidden, you don't notice it there. If you just cut that out, that's a huge gain. You're stepping forward and making things a lot better in your health.
So isn't it safe to say that when people eat foods, they should eat things that are as close to the original source? Like an apple is an apple.
Right, and
A nut is a nut.
right, the closer you are to the original food, the more nutrition.
So when it comes to weight loss or gain, eat as close as you can to the original food. Once you start reading things that have how many ingredients, is it 5 or more, it becomes like dangerous.
Right, if you just glance at a list on the label, and it's a long list,
The danger, like,
you don't even want to think about it.
right, okay. So you're saying that should be like the red light warning, like keep away, keep away, keep away.
Yeah, it should be simple. It shouldn't be a list of chemicals. Well, God knows what they're even doing to you.
Okay, here's a scenario. I'll use myself. It's late at night. I'm still working and I'm hungry. Who knows for what reason? It's emotional. I like to feel something crunchy, munchy. I got to eat something. And I really don't need it, but I like the idea of chewing on something. What do I do?
Well, the best strategy is to have something already set up for you for when that moment comes.
Like what?
So one of my biggest weaknesses is ice cream.
Really? Okay, so what do you do?
So you have to always remember, whatever you buy and put in your basket at the supermarket and take home is going to be eaten.
Okay.
Now, so many people try to fool themselves and say,
Right.
well, I'm buying this for company.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Right.
bull.
And when you live by yourself, you really can't, get around that. So if you can, buy something that's a good substitute.
Okay, so what should someone buy? What would you buy instead of ice cream? Or do you buy ice cream?
Well, I'm actually now making my own, sort of back to the Italian granitas.
Really? Wow, Mark, I had no idea.
I'm using buttermilk, which has got like maybe 0.5% or 1% of fat in it.
Okay.
And then I'll put a little bit of, I'll put some Splenda in there to sweeten it so it takes the sugar out. And put it in a bowl in the freezer. After it starts to freeze, take it out, take a hand beater, break up all the crystals, put it back in, wait another 20 minutes, do that a couple times, then put it in a container, and now you've got a healthy ice cream. You could put a banana and mix that up, in a blender before you put it in.
Is this good?
It's delicious.
Really?
There's something called pomegranate. It's pomegranate molasses. It's got a phenomenal taste, and you just put some of that in of the buttermilk and some of the sweetener of the stevia, and you make this little ice cream kind of thing.
And where do you get this stuff? Like at Whole Foods?
Yeah, you can find it in different places. It's easy to find.
Okay, good. And people can also go to your website, which is timetofeelbetter.org.
Yes.
And they can find out, you have great information. You have a newsletter that's just chock full of nuts. No pun intended. So let's talk about fat in the body. People have a lot of fat. Now, what is fat? It's like,
Fat is nature's way of making sure we don't starve. We're now in a society where we can get food 24 hours a day, and unfortunately, a lot of the choices are all very unhealthy.
Right.
But for most of all of man's existence, you had to catch your food, and in order to make sure you didn't starve to death, when you had extra calories coming in, your body would take that and store that as fat.
Right.
So that when the lean times came and there wasn't a lot of food around, that you could literally live off of that fat. You can break that fat down into energy that your body could use to keep yourself going.
Right.
Now, that kind of programming and structure in the body is millions of years old. The fact that we now have all these foods available all the time is a problem, because we haven't been designed to be able to eat constantly.
Right.
So the body naturally wants to store fat, and one of the reasons people love sugar and are attracted to those foods is because the body will take that sugar and store it as fat.
So are you saying that sugar and these types of things are addictive?
Oh, you bet.
So how does someone break that cycle?
There was a wonderful study where they had some rats that had a choice between pushing a little lever and getting cocaine, or pushing another little lever and getting super sweetened water. Which one do you think they picked?
The sugar sweetened water.
Yeah, they picked that over cocaine.
Well,
Because it raises your dopamine. Both of those will raise your dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good, makes you motivated, but it also not just makes you motivated to do stuff, it also makes you motivated to eat.
oh,
And now on top of that, you add all the advertising and the visual stimulus. People talk about Pavlov's dog. He actually
Right.
had a number of dogs.
right.
Just the seeing the food, the dog would start salivating. We have that same stuff built into our brains, like it or not. You see the picture of food, you'll start to salivate.
Right, right.
And advertisers know that. So all of these together come to put you in a place where you're more likely to reach for that food, whether it's healthy or not. These inner drives push you towards that.
Right.
And then you overconsume more calories than you really need and more than you're burning off, then you're going to get fat.
Just seems like a vicious cycle.
Well,
And
the only way to get around it is you need to consume less calories if you want to lose weight, and or exercise more to burn off more calories.
right.
There's sort of simple math there.
Okay, so let me see, because we have overeating, unconscious eating. Someone once told me that if you're going to eat, you should use your hands as a guide. You should have one hand with the size of your palm, should be your protein. You should have two palms to be your vegetables, and another palm to be your carbohydrates. What do you use as a guide for?
That's not a bad guide.
What do you recommend, Mark Morano?
The more vegetables, the better. And there's a lot of reasons for that, particularly if you've got different colored vegetables.
Right.
Protein in the United States, people can really take more protein in than they need. It's not a huge problem in America that people don't have enough protein. They have way too much carbs. I mean, you look at people's plates and it's full of noodles, pasta, potatoes, all of those simple all those carbohydrates that are going to end up making you more fat.
So this
And
breaks,
messing with your blood sugar as well.
right, so this breaks down, this gets stored in the body because the body doesn't know what to do with all this. And then it goes to places like your stomach or your hips.
You bet.
Or your stomach or your butt or your hips or your butt or your hips. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I can relate. I'm Italian. I come from a family, pasta, pasta, pasta. And that most of the things that we have turn into sugar. I mean, doesn't just vegetables break down to sugar, but it's a different type of sugar? Is
Well,
that true?
It's also the speed at which things break down. Simple sugars will go into your system very quickly, and that's what
Right.
really messes with your blood sugar and your insulin levels.
Right.
When you've got something like broccoli, which is one of the healthiest of vegetables,
Right.
it's got a lot of fiber bound up with it. And the amount
Okay.
of carbohydrates, since they're complex, makes it so it doesn't go in all at once.
Right.
And it's much less likely to cause any problem with putting on weight. It's a healthy thing.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay, shall we? So one of the things I have is that if you want to stay healthy and lean, you should look at people that are healthy and lean, like you. What do you have? What is your day like when you start your day? What do you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Give us a day in the life of Mark Morano, because you have to lead by example, and we're following you.
One of the things I have done for many decades is make a blended salad.
What is that?
It frightens some people.
Okay, okay.
So I have my old sturdy osterizer. Mm-hmm. I put in a little bit of water, some whey protein isolate.
Right.
The highest biological value of all proteins is whey protein.
Oh, okay.
So it's very good quality.
Sure, sure.
And I give that a little buzz and get that mixed up. I'll put in a carrot, lots of beta carotene. I will put in kale.
Kale is great.
Kale is just all those cruciferous vegetables are really good. Any of those. You
Right.
could put in some broccoli, and it's all raw.
And you don't do anything to your kale? You don't massage it? You just throw it in just the way it is?
I take the big stem out, and then I just throw it in.
Okay.
I'll put in some tomatoes if they're good, not like little marbles.
Okay.
And I'll put in half of a red pepper.
This is what you have for breakfast?
Red peppers are full of vitamin A. There's lots of beta carotene in carrots, which is particularly good for the immune systems of people who have dark eyes.
Oh, that's me.
This is a little off topic, but it's interesting that, some people, they say if you feel a cold coming on, have a lot of vitamin C. And some people take that extra vitamin C and it wards off the cold. Other people, they say it doesn't work for me. But if you look at those people, the people it doesn't work for tend to be light-skinned and blue-eyed people.
That it doesn't work for.
Right. Because if you think about it, where are you going to find vitamin C?
In the sun.
Right, closer to the equator.
Right, and people with dark skin.
With people dark skin and dark eyes. People who are light-eyed are farther away from the equator. There is no citrus, but they have root vegetables, like carrots, in the ground, which are full of beta-carotene that they can then convert.
Oh, so you're saying with people with light skin and blue eyes have the things that grow in the ground, like the carrots, and they'll help them with their vitamin C?
That's better than them having the vitamin C.
Oh.
That'll help their immune system much more than taking the vitamin C.
So are you saying that
because that's the genetics. It goes back. So if you have a family who's lived for generations and generations on the edge of the sea and has been eating fish for hundreds and hundreds of years, and then they migrate to another, like say to the Midwest in the United States, and it's all meat, they don't do well with that. Their genetics aren't really primed to digesting meat. So you have to take this stuff into consideration. It's more than just what it says in a book that you should eat this, and this is.
Do you have a test that you give people at your office that you could tell what's best for them?
There are different ways to see what's best for people.
How do you do that?
Well, sometimes you want to just do a plain old blood test or urine test.
Sure.
There are energetic ways to test people. Mm-hmm. It really varies. A physical test to see whether someone's muscles are working properly, to see whether their body's in alignment. You have to match to the person what it is that's going on.
And you could do all of this?
Yeah.
So, okay, and somebody wants to find you. Where do they find you again? Tell us where you're located. You're located in Boston?
I'm actually in Alston.
Oh, you're in Alston. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And they just look under your name, Mark Morano, as an Morano?
Yes.
And that's it, and they'll find you.
Or go to my website, timetofeelbetter.org.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about stomach acid reflux, GERD. heartburn, and God, there's a lot of things that do that. Bloating, brittle, weak nails, acid reflux, candida, ulcers, iron deficiency, anemia, osteoporosis, acne, food allergies, and accelerated aging. They all have in common low stomach acid. Whoa. Do tell.
This is one of my favorite topics
Okay.
because it has such an impact on so many things. Now, people who have acid reflux,
Right.
heartburn, GERD,
Right.
there are all these different terms for it. Everyone assumes that the problem is they have too much acid. Sometimes
I just heard my stomach just
I
growl.
did just hear your
my
stomach.
I wonder if you picked that up on the microphone. My stomach was just growling when you said stomach acid. I'm saying, oh my goodness, my stomach is talking. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And there's a funny name for those funny noises
What are
in
they?
medicine. The technical term is borborygamy.
Borborygamy.
But it sort of sounds like the word sounds like the stomach noises.
It sounds like a gremlin inside. Like, where did that come from?
So most people think that their acid reflux and their heartburn is because they have too much acid. Sometimes that's the case, but most of the time it's because they don't have enough acid.
And how do you find out if a person has enough acid or not?
Well, there are different ways. You can take the high-tech way, and there's something called the Heidelberg capsule. And it's a little capsule that you swallow, and it's got little sensors and things inside of it. And your doctor can trace it as it goes through your system, and it can actually monitor and see what the pH is, how acidic or alkaline you are at different points, because it should change. There should be a lot of acid in your stomach.
Can't you just like pee on a strip and you find out what your pH is?
You can do that, but that's for overall acidity, alkalinity in the body. That's another whole topic.
Oh, okay, okay.
But normally, your stomach should be very acidic. Once you get outside of the stomach and start to move into the small intestine, then it shifts more to alkaline. So you can actually track with this little capsule, and that's one way you can find out.
But then people are really destroying the whole nature of everything when they have things like Tums or these over-the-counter,
Right,
because you're
right.
like messing with Mother Nature.
Right, Tums particularly are bad because it's made out of calcium carbonate, which kills the stomach acid. People take Tums, it drives that stomach acid right down, which is why people reach for those things, because it kills the burn.
Right.
But the reason people have the burn between your stomach and your esophagus,
Right.
there's a sphincter muscle that closes like this to stop stuff from coming up into the throat from the stomach.
So what do you
And
do?
it's called the lower esophageal sphincter, or the LES.
I like that word, sphincter.
Yes. So the trigger, the cue to have this muscle close is having enough acid.
Well, how do you get the acid in there?
Your body makes it.
But I mean, what if you have agita or acid reflux? We call it agita,
Right,
Italians.
but the problem is you don't have enough. This muscle isn't getting, if you have enough acid, it'll make that muscle close like it should.
So can people have like apple cider vinegar or
That certainly helps.
like a tablespoon in diluted water, something? I mean,
Well, those are ways to relieve it, but that's not addressing the overall problem. Oh. The overall problem is that you don't have enough acid. Now, there are a number of reasons for this.
go ahead.
As you get older, your stomach acid drops. I've had patients who are even in their 30s, and already it's starting to drop. By the time you get to 60, you could be down in 20, 30% or more. By the time you get into your 70s, I mean, it just keeps going down and down.
And that's why people get acid reflux, because
Particularly, you don't think there's, not a lot of people when they're younger who have that problem as much as It gets worse with older people. Just because as you get older, you just don't produce as much.
So what do you do?
Well, you have to see why is there the problem. That's what I'm always thinking of when I'm working with people.
And what do
Why
you do?
is it that way?
What do you do to
Well,
find out?
Well, one of the things I like to do is a urine test. Or
Okay.
actually, a blood test is even better, where they just prick their finger,
Sure.
and then I get a whole picture of their amino acids.
Okay.
See, the critical thing of having enough acid is, if you don't have enough acid, you can't break your protein down into its little bits and pieces, which are called amino acids.
Oh.
Now, those are the building blocks of everything. They're the building blocks of your skin, repairing your tissue, making all your neurotransmitters like your serotonin and your dopamine, all of your sex hormones, all of your hormones. Everything is made out of amino acids. Your collagen and elastin in your skin. No stomach acid, no amino acids, you can't make any of that stuff.
Wow, it sounds like if you don't have stomach acid, you're like in a bad place.
You got that right.
And you said you wanted to do a little test.
So let's get back to the little test.
Okay, sure.
With people, I send this out to a lab.
Right.
There's something called, there are like 10 amino acids that are particularly essential and critical.
Sure.
This test will show how much you are on each of the different amino acids.
Okay.
Are you low? Are you high? Are you in the middle? So if I look at somebody's profile and everything's pretty much down towards the bottom, then I know they're not breaking down their proteins.
And what do you give them?
Well, if I want to see why aren't they breaking it down and why don't they have enough acid? It may not just be because of age, it may be because they're low in zinc. Your body goes through a lot of trouble creating a lot of acid in a very contained area. It's a lot of energy it's expends, and it uses a lot of zinc to make hydrochloric acid.
And zinc is a mineral that the body produces.
No, the body cannot produce minerals.
Oh.
Minerals are essential, which means the body can't make them.
So where do they come from?
They come from the ground.
So you get these like zinc from what you eat.
Right, so the plant pulls the minerals up through its roots and into the plant. So then when you eat the plant, you're getting those minerals.
And what plant?
But
I'm sorry.
the problem is the way we farm, we have taken out all of the good minerals. So even if the book says that a cup of broccoli has this much magnesium, etc., or zinc, it doesn't mean anything. If it's not in the soil, the plant can't pull it up, which is one of the reasons why you want to have organic foods, because the soil there is rich with all kinds of things.
Wow.
So you want to think about people's zinc. Is it too low? 30 milligrams a day is a good ballpark for people to be taking in that much to make sure their stomach acid. Because see, there's a whole bunch of things in your body that wants zinc. Your brain needs it, your heart needs it, you need it for your immune system. So everybody's trying to get a piece. So it's easy I find a lot of people are low in zinc because so many things in the body are always trying to grab it.
You want to do that test we were talking about?
Right, so if you can't build and repair because you can't break down your proteins.
Right.
That includes building and repairing in things like skin, collagen. So there's a quick and dirty test I'll do with people.
Okay, so we should get the camera to do a close-up of our hands. Yes.
So skin elasticity
Sure.
sometimes is a reflection of how dehydrated or hydrated you are.
Sure.
Also, whether you've spent years in the sun or not.
Right.
But it's sort of just a quick and dirty way to see how much collagen you've got going on. How much is the snap of the skin? The more it snaps, that's like more of a young person. It means you're probably breaking down your proteins, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Years ago, I volunteered in front of a seminar to do this test in front of the class, and that was pathetic. The teacher, who was more than 10 years older than I was 10 times faster with his skin than I was. Mm-hmm. And I did a little test and realized I was low in zinc. Mm-hmm. So if you just take your skin and pull up at the same time and let go. And there's a delay here.
Mine definitely delayed. Yours was like fast. Yours snapped. Mine like,
Right, so the better the snap, the better your collagen and elastin are.
okay.
Now, that's not a guarantee. I'd still want to say, look, let's do a little test, but it gives you an idea. The worse it is, particularly if you're not that old. I mean, if you're 70 years old, yeah, you're not going to have snappy collagen. I mean, there are exceptions to that, but you know,
Right.
as you get older, that goes. But I think part of the reason it gets that way is a reflection of people, as they age, dropping more and more in their stomach acid. I don't think it has to be that just because you age, you have to have bad skin elasticity. Can you see how they sort of mesh?
I do. I'm like getting the big picture.
And to have stomach acid, it affects all kinds of things. You can't repair your bone if you hurt. It tends to make the bone cells that break bone down to be more active instead of the ones that build up.
Okay.
So it could affect your osteopenia, osteoporosis, all that can play a piece. Muscles, you may be working out at the gym. Part of the way you get stronger and bigger muscles is you're actually breaking down them a little bit, and then the body rebuilds them.
Right, right.
But you can't rebuild and repair if you're not breaking down your protein into amino acids.
Isn't that interesting?
If you want to make a memory, there's a great test for people who are deficient in protein and who aren't breaking down their amino acids, is you have them stand on one foot. Can we do this?
I suppose we could,
Oh,
but I'm not sure if we can stand up. We'll,
yeah, we'll mess it all up.
yeah.
But have a friend stand
Yes.
on one foot, whatever's their best on. Eyes are open. They can put their arms out. And then have them, you count, like 1, 1,000, 2, 2,000, how long they can stand and keep their balance. Then have them close their eyes and do the same test. If there's a big difference between them, you know they're either deficient in protein or they're not breaking their proteins down.
Oh my goodness.
Because to do it with your eyes closed, you actually have to take a picture of the room and have that memory. You have to make a memory, and to make a memory, you need amino acids and protein to make that happen. So if you're balancing just fine for 10 seconds, and then you close your eyes, and in 2 or 3 seconds you're falling over, think about how much protein you're getting in, which is usually less of the problem is how much you're breaking it down.
And you can help people with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anything else you want to add to your last statements about zinc and amino acids?
There are
Stomach acids?
things you can do. You can actually replace that lost stomach acid. You can take it in the form of pills.
Okay.
It's hydrochloric acid, and as you take it's not hydrochloric acid like you put in a chemistry class that'll burn a hole.
Right.
But it's made from beets, and it helps raise your stomach acid, so you digest your food more properly.
Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is people, they have a lot of pain, and they're reaching over the counter for a lot of different drugs to help them with the pain. Give us your thoughts on this, because we're out of control. We're a pill popping nation.
Oh yeah, over the counter, they're called NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which is your ibuprofen, Advil, Aleve,
Sure.
acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, all naproxen. All of those drugs are huge sellers.
They do have a place, though.
Well, how many
Do they?
do you know how many doses of Tylenol were a couple years ago? They tracked how many doses in a year. 24 billion they sold.
We don't need that. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Okay, so
people are in pain. What do they want? They want to
okay.
get out of pain.
Okay, here's an example for you. Someone has a headache. Instead of taking a Tylenol, what can they take instead?
Well, once again, why do they have the headache?
Maybe they're dehydrated.
Right. So, it may just be they need to start with that. That's a good place to start. Mm-hmm. Headaches aren't all just headaches. If you're stressed out, and that's why you've got the headache, then that's what you need to focus on.
Right.
If you've got a headache because you were in the garden and strained the muscles back here that you're not used to using, lifting up stuff, then you need to address those muscles. So whenever I work with you, I'm always thinking about what is the underlying cause. I think of any problem as a pie. There's a piece of this, there's a piece of that that's contributing to it. It's rarely one piece. It may look that way, but it's usually several things. And the more you address all of those things, the better you feel. But popping the pill can be really detrimental because people think this is like, well, it's over the counter, it's not strong, it's weak. They're not going to be giving me something like oxycodone. It's not a big deal, I'll pop them. But in one study, they had these healthy young adults taking 4 grams of acetaminophen Tylenol, and for 2 weeks, which is the maximum dose, but after 2 weeks, their livers were already reached the point of toxicity.
And once your liver...
When your liver goes, you go.
That's it. It's over.
It is over.
There's no way back.
Yeah. I mean, the number of people, I think it's 1 out of 5 of the people who do die from a perforation. It's a serious thing. And particularly Tylenol is one of the worst because how hard it is on the liver. And then people, particularly in the winter, when they're not feeling well, they're buying all these Therameds and the Vicks Tylenol stuff and all those combo things.
Right.
You don't realize it. It'll say acetaminophen, but on there, you're getting more and more Tylenol, much higher doses than you realize, because you're getting this product and this, and then you're popping it on top of that. And the truth is, it doesn't really help your cold get any better any faster. The only symptom it helps is the achiness, but it's not going to help with all the runny nose and the stuffy nose or the cough. It has no effect on that.
What does someone do when they get a cold? They feel it coming on. What would you advise them to do?
Well, certainly rest.
Sleep. Fluids.
And fluids. It's the old
That's
basics.
It. Like your mother says, have the chicken soup. There's something to that because it's fluids.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So moving on.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about stress and cortisol. And I was a little bit confused when I started reading that because a lot of people don't understand. Well, we all know what stress is. We all get stressed out. It's like we just can't take anymore. But what is cortisol and what does it have to do with stress?
Well, you have these little triangular glands, very tiny, that sit on the top of your kidneys.
Okay.
They're called your adrenal glands.
Oh, okay.
Now, despite how tiny they are, they can pack quite a wallop. They put out adrenaline and cortisol. These are the 2 major hormones. Have you ever heard of the flight or fight phenomena?
Sure.
Or some people say fight, flight, or freeze. Like the little squirrel runs out, looks in the headlights and it freezes.
Sure.
Or runs away to the other side. That is hardwired into our system. It's millions of years old. It's built into us to make sure we can survive. And it works great. I once had the interesting experience of being mugged on the Esplanade.
Oh, my goodness.
And 3 guys just all jumped on me. And I took this one guy who was holding me from behind and threw him up against a tree and managed to escape from the other two.
Like the Hulk.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. Now, the amazing thing to me was weeks after that experience, I still was feeling all the effects of that amount of adrenaline that was pumped into my blood and the cortisol.
How so?
It was weeks. I mean, couldn't sleep, being on the edge. I mean, it's just like you took 20 cups of coffee. Because when it is a life and death matter,
Sure.
that's how powerful that is. I mean, and when I ran, I ran. Now your body's thinking,
You have to survive.
this is a survival situation. So a whole bunch of things fall out of this. Now, at the time, it's just the right, perfect thing. Intense situations like that, you want your body to be able to sort of take over and make everything work so that you survive. What gets us is chronic stress, because it just keeps going on and on and on. So these are the things your body does to help you survive when you have this. Your adrenal glands pump out all this stuff, the adrenaline, the cortisol, and they shut down your digestion. It's certainly not a priority when you're trying to save yourself from a saber-toothed tiger or a mugger to be digesting your food. That's not important at the moment.
The important thing is to get away.
The blood is taken from the stomach and the digestive organs because, again, it's not important. That blood is shunted to your major muscles so you can run and fight. It will also increase your ability to breathe, so you're getting more oxygen to help you get away. A whole bunch of things stop, like all your reproductive organs, they're taking your blood from there. The last thing your body needs to think about is reproducing when you're just trying to survive. So when you have those things going on in that situation of a true threatening, life-threatening kind of situation, all of that stuff makes perfect sense.
But in the real world, when people have stress,
right, it just goes on and on and on.
I mean, everyday stress, sometimes people can't control their stress. They have very difficult lives. They're just trying to just make it from day to day. How does somebody go beyond that to rise above that? I mean, what does the cortisol, what can be done?
Well, part of it is managing your stress. There's something called eustress, which is called good stress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. We think of stress as bad. Stress can actually be positive. It's really all dependent upon how you interpret it. What one person may think is a horrible thing, somebody can interpret it quite a different way, and they don't consider it stress. Some people thrive on things that other people would say is just killing them because it's just so stressful. So it's not like anything is inherently stressful. So that's the first place you want to start is, what are the things that you're reacting to? What are the things you're trying to change that you can't change? Like parents trying to control their kids. They're not going to stop trying, but they get stressed out about certain things rather than accepting that there are certain things that they're just the way they are.
Right.
Certainly things like yoga, meditation, those kinds of practices can help bring your stress down.
Does breathing help? I heard that.
Breathing can make a huge difference, particularly yogic breathing, or even just plain, basic slowing down your breath makes a huge difference.
It could be something as simple as that, just breathing.
Yeah. There are certain essential oils, like aromatherapy, that are calming. Lavender is very calming.
That really works?
Yeah. Because the fastest, most direct route to get something into your brain is through your nose.
Really?
It's not an accident that people snort drugs up their nose, because there's actually a direct line into the brain via that pathway.
Now, are there certain, are all different things that you breathe, like lavender, is it true for everybody, or are there different scents for different people that affect them different ways?
No, they've done research. There's a lot of research has been done in aromatherapy showing that specific essential oils will have very specific results and very particular kinds of things that they work on.
So is this one of your solutions that you help people with stress?
Yeah, you can have a little bottle of essential oil of lavender.
I need one of those.
You want the gallon size?
No, I don't need the gallon size.
That's good.
All right, so can we talk about our next topic?
Sure.
Which is energy drains, or you call them energy vampires. I call them the leecher creatures.
That's a great term. I like that,
I
the leecher
know.
creature.
I've had a lot of them in my life that just suck the energy out of you for whatever reason. So tell us your view on this, all the things that can drain your energy.
Well, you talk about stress. One of the things that affects people is all the things that they haven't completed around them, their incompletions. It's those stacks of paper on the desk that every time you go past them, even if you don't see them out directly, it's just reminding you, it's like tapping you on the shoulder. You haven't done that, you still need to do that. It's we want your attention now, and it's pulling on you. And it's draining energy because you're trying to resist it. So the old saying is, the more you resist, the more it persists.
Oh, wow.
So you want to clean up those things. It's all those little things. They add up quite a bit. It doesn't have to be a big thing to drain you. It's that one niggling thing over there. It's that one thing over here you haven't done. A pile of stuff here. That phone call you've been avoiding.
And what about people that are toxic in your life?
Yeah, there are places, someone will walk into a room and it's like this loud industrial Hoover vacuum cleaner suddenly got turned on. This big whooshing noise, as you can feel them starting to suck the energy out of you. And there are people like that.
Have you ever been around someone that you're around them and you start to shake because they just have such a negative effect on you? Has that ever happened to you?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's happened to me. I mean, that to me is like a big sign.
Yeah, it is a big sign.
Get away.
Yeah.
Because it's danger. Yeah.
The thing is, as much as you can control the situation, set boundaries.
Boundaries. Okay.
Like, you don't owe them. I mean, your life energy is your life energy.
Sure.
And some people will take it, even if it costs you something. So you have to just be willing to say no, to make sure when you get together with certain people, particularly if it's family, that you want to make sure you've got to balance things out. In general with relationships, you want there to be a healthy balance. I mean, there are times when people are going to have a harder time, and other times we're going to have a better time. But things should basically have some kind of balance. But when you've got people who don't have that, and you have to interact with them, like say it could be your boss, you can't avoid them.
You also had something in one of your newsletters that was, beware the people basically that give you gifts and they try to lure you in.
Oh, sure. Here's the bait.
Right. There's the bait.
Or they'll give you things so that you now owe them.
Right.
Like energetically now, okay, you've got to pay me back somehow.
Right.
So you're always beholden to them.
And we have to be aware of those signs too.
Right. Sometimes deciding on where you go. In other words, if you want to get together with somebody, you have to get together with somebody who's a family member. There's that dynamics going on. Go to a movie. That automatically is going to limit the availability. You're still together, you're still sharing a nice experience.
But you don't have to engage as much,
Right.
which is a good thing.
Right, versus going to their house or their apartment and now you're stuck there and now they can just keep, vampiring you for the whole afternoon.
Right,
And
so
then you come home and you're exhausted.
Right.
It's
Right.
like,
So, what would you like to share with people who are stuck in these situations with these energy vampires?
I think it's important to be very clear and to not put up with things. I think that's what really gets us in trouble. Out of guilt or whatever, we put up with things rather than just saying, no, that's just not acceptable. You can be compassionate people and understanding, but there's a point too where you say, I'm just not available to do that, or sometimes you need to just even be direct and say, I just feel drained after being around you.
Sometimes it's okay to say no
Exactly.
and just move on. And as you say, to be honest with people, which is a very big thing. A lot of people are afraid to be honest because they think they're going to hurt someone or they're going to lose something, but you feel empowered when you tell people how you feel.
Right. And you do it with as much kindness and compassion as you can.
Sure.
But there are people too who just, no, they don't want to hear it. And you can't make them hear it. And then you just, do what you need to do to protect yourself and to keep your energy.
So tell us about your practice a little bit in Boston and how people can find you, and some of the things that you can do for people that need help either with weight loss or with stress or with the energy vampires, the energy drainers, or with taking too many pills over the counter, or with the cortisol. You talked about the cortisol. Did I cover everything we talked about today? I think so, yeah. And how would you help someone that comes to you? Do they fill out a form? What's the procedure?
Yeah, on my website,
Right.
timetofeelbetter.org, there's a thing that says appointments. You just click on that, scroll down, and you'll see a place to click on a PDF for the medical history form.
Oh, good. So timetofeelbetter.org.
Right.
Okay.
And then people can, send me an email, Mark's Helpline at me.com.
Okay.
And then they can come in. And every person's different. Everybody's pie, even if they have, quote, the same condition, everybody's unique and everybody's got to be addressed that way.
Now, do they pay a fee to fill out this PDF form, or how does that work?
No, they call up, they can make set up an appointment.
Sure. And you're reasonable. I looked at your rates, I said, he's reasonable. So you're affordable do you take insurance?
None, unfortunately, I'm not covered by insurance.
Maybe that's even better. You have to deal with all the paperwork. So, Mark, it was so nice having you here. Thank you so much for coming by, and we hope to have you here again. You were
thank you.
really terrific. So, timetofeelbetter.org, Mark Morano from the Boston area. Thank you. And if they want to get your newsletter, then that's it.
Yeah, just go to my newsletter and they can fill out the little box and sign up.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
So we're just going to I'm just so happy you came here tonight. I mean, it's endless, what you can learn. We can go on and on and on because you have so many.